Back, we're on Lake County Magazine with Terry and Pete, and we have Mr. Anderson in the house, but we're going to go over to the phone lines because I think Scott's on the phone. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, great. How about the lake report?
The lake report is awesome. It was from yesterday. There was a west current. We had a pH of 8.2 chemical and 9.0 electronically. The temperature was up to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. We had 3 feet of visibility. Unfortunately, I had cyanobacteria in front of my place when I left.
Wow.
No quagga was observed, and I have a quick comment. It's sad that we have a well-funded agency that has equipment, funds, and people and won't do what they're supposed to do, protect us from poisons and vectors. I'm afraid to take measurements. Seriously, sticking my hand in the water was scary. This is silly. Vector Control should step up to the challenge and stop giving free research to rich German companies. It is so wrong to take poor people's money and give it to rich people. This is just wrong. Kudos to the Forest Service. Good job keeping control of the logging chaos in the National Forest above High Valley. And kudos to Mike Dunlap for his no on L flag. And kudos to Pete and Terry for a great show this morning. That guy is super cool. I want to listen to him some more.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
You have a great day down there on the beach, okay?
All right.
Thinking about
you.
us.
Bye bye, Don.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I love him.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, what will we do without our lake report? It's sad to hear the cyanobacteria is already back.
How do you tell?
The algae and
is that okay?
It grows.
So,
it lives in the algae.
Right.
So it's all.
I'm not
all
very
interrelated.
into science.
Okay, so we're here with District Attorney Don Anderson. Welcome.
Good morning.
Oh, I guess it would help if I gave you a microphone. Go ahead and say it again. There.
Good morning. Okay, I got to start off with this. I'm now really scared.
Uh-oh.
Last week we had the sheriff here.
I know.
We had a possible DA candidate. Now we got the real DA. I'm getting nervous.
No, actually, it's a good thing because you're going to get to know them now.
Absolutely.
And that's what's really, really important in anybody's lifetime, to know who our law enforcement officers are, and we appreciate all that you all do, definitely. Okay, so I'm going to turn everything over to Peter.
Me?
Or actually, Don's going to give us a little thing, and I would like to hold the phone calls till about 10:25, if you guys could, and then we'll open up the lines and questioning.
Okay, well, a little bit about me. I moved to Lake County in 1969 when I was a junior in high school, and I pretty much stayed here the entire time, other than a couple of years going back and forth to San Jose, where I was attending San Jose State University. I studied criminal justice administration at San Jose State. Half the time I was down there full time. The other half of my tenure down there, I was working up here as a deputy sheriff and commuting back and forth to San Jose, sometimes once, sometimes twice a week, to finish up and obtain my bachelor's science degree. I was hired as a reserve deputy sheriff in 1973. And worked weekends and is on a volunteer basis, and really started to really like law enforcement. So that's what inspired me to go on to the Criminal Justice Administration. Then in 1975, I was hired full-time as a very naive, skinny young man. And obviously, that was a long time ago. But I learned quick. One thing a seasoned veteran told me one time, about the second time you're knocked down, you start to realize what life is all about. So it probably took me a little bit more than 2 times, but I was knocked down, got up fighting. So after I finished my degree at San Jose State, I continued working at the sheriff's office. I was promoted to detectives, where I worked 2 years in detectives, doing all kinds of major crime investigations, anything from homicides to burglaries to even political corruption cases. Then in, I believe it was 89 or 88, I was transferred over to undercover narcotics, where I worked almost 2 years in the narcotic task force, which is a multi-agency task force, had members of the Sheriff's Office, Lakeport, Clear Lake Police, and it was run by the Department of Justice, Bureau of Narcotic Enforcement. And that was a tremendous education. I saw things undercover that I never can imagine ever seeing while I was in patrol. So another educational experience. In 1986, I believe it was, I had been the president of the Deputy Sheriff's Association for about 4 or 5 years then. And I was encouraged to go to law school, mainly by our labor representatives, and they thought I could do some good, and I was interested in the labor movement. So I went to law school at Empire Law School in Santa Rosa, obtained my Juris Doctorate degree, and for a while I opened up a practice in Lakeport where I was working part-time as an attorney and full-time as a deputy sheriff. I had asked to go back to patrol so I could work late nights and practice law during the day. Well, that lasted about 6 months, and I got overwhelmed with work and had to make a decision. Do I continue working patrol, wrestling drunks, and doing all that type of stuff, or do I go into law and try to make a better living? So I chose law. Maybe a mistake, maybe not. One never knows. But I went into law. I practiced civil litigation and family law, and some criminal law also. Probably 5 to 10% of my workload was criminal law. Then, because of problems within the DA's office, streamlined a lot with the infamous Denius case, so many people were encouraging me to run for district attorney. I was very hesitant at first, and the more prodding I got, the more I got into it, and I said, okay, I will. And I did, and I won. So I took office in January of 2011 and have been DA for the past 3.5 years. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, it's a terrific job. It's probably one of the best jobs I've ever had, running very close to working undercover narcotics. Mm-hmm. It was very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that's and you want to continue that because you
most
love
definitely.
It. Okay.
Well, he is running, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yes. Okay, fair enough.
Just want to make that clear.
Okay. Before I get into my questions, you mentioned right now that you were practicing law at night while being a officer on duty.
Yes.
And you had some criminal cases. Wasn't there a conflict there?
Not at that time. When I started practicing law, I didn't take any criminal cases for about 2 or 3 years. Just didn't want to. I didn't want to go over to the other side totally.
Well, wouldn't that have been a conflict of interest? Where,
it would have,
during the day, you're arresting people, and at night, you're protecting them?
Yeah.
I mean,
that would have been a conflict. It's not a legal conflict. The only people that cannot practice law is the court clerk and the sheriff himself, but deputies can. But it was a conflict I wasn't going to get into, so I decided not to.
Okay, so for the record, you did not practice criminal law while you were an officer?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
All right. Okay, on that note, I'm sure the phones will ring fast, so I got to get some of my questions in.
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm trying. In listening to the debates / forums that have happened over the last couple of months and listening to you on some of the radio programs, you've mentioned several times the morals and ethics that are required and necessary in your office.
Yes.
Okay. And I hate to bring up past news, but, people want to know.
I expect it. Go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. When you went down as a witness for Navarro down in Marin County, that case came out of Lake County. You deferred it to a different jurisdiction for obvious reasons. Yet you're DA from the county that transferred the case, and yet you go down as a character witness, saying the gentleman was, quote, honest, I believe, when he had already taken a plea agreement. So I guess my question is, you did what you did, but don't you think that kind of violated that ethics and morality of your office by doing that?
No, it doesn't. And because the facts you say are partial, they're right, but they're only partial facts. Let me go over the Navarro case in detail. And no question, I am friends with Derek's brother, Sean. He's an extremely close friend of mine. But I had represented Derek Navarro in an administrative hearing, and only for a short time, probably, a month or so. That was before, long before I was elected district attorney. So because of that, when you're an attorney for a defendant, it disqualifies the entire office. So we had no choice to refer to the Attorney General.
Right.
And after that, I had no discussion with the Attorney General, nothing to do with the case. I'm totally walled off from it, and for good reason. But I knew a lot of information about the case. So what happened when Derek Navarro's case was transferred to Marin County and set for trial, I got a subpoena from the defendant. And I was subpoenaed to go to court. So what do you do? Do I honor the subpoena, follow the law, or say, forget it, I'm not going. If you want me, come and arrest me? No, you can't. You can't.
And
do
as a
that.
D, I don't think you can do that. Right?
No, and ethically, how could I say, okay, I'm not going to attend, I'm going to try to get out of this subpoena, at the same time I'm subpoenaing 100 people to show up for court. So the subpoena was not only for character evidence. There was about 5 or 6 different issues I was subpoenaed for to testify. One were the rims issues, because that was an issue in the case, and other things that related to my representation of Derek and the work I did in that case and the interviews I did with the alleged victim in the case. So that was the main reason why I was subpoenaed. Also, the issue came up and it's not whether or not Derek Navarro has good character, bad character, whatever. The question is, and it's a very simple question and very limited, is what is my knowledge of the defendant's reputation in the community for truth and honesty? That's it, just truth and honesty. And everything I knew about Derek, what people had told me about him, because we had a lot of conversations with people about Mr. Navarro. I had been with him during the campaign a couple of times, and it was all positive as it relates to truth and honesty. So when the question was asked, what do I know about his reputation for truth and honesty in the community? And I told him the truth. Everything I've heard was good. And that was the sum of my testimony. I know it's been criticized, and it's very easily to criticize someone just on the basics, you might say the headlines, without reading into the story.
But with your knowledge of the incident and what had happened and the fact that he had already signed a plea, don't you think that was inappropriate to go down there and say that he's a good guy from your knowledge? I mean, yes, you were telling the truth, but by the same token, you also knew that what had happened, and now because of it, this man's been acquitted. He's tried to get a job working in a high school with girls and other inappropriate actions that he's had since then, and in my opinion, a predator is still on the loose.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really not going to address anything after the trial. I really don't have any information on it. But you have to understand, I'm not saying, and I'm going to testify, I'm not even allowed to testify about his guilt or innocence, whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. The only thing that any myself or any witness can testify to is his knowledge of the reputation in the community, and that's only for truth and honesty.
Okay.
Okay.
So-
Do you
Yeah, I
think-
understand. You're underneath the parameters that the defense attorney had you to testify
Yeah.
on. You're not allowed to give any other.
Yeah, and the rules of evidence,
Yeah.
you can't give anything more than just that.
Right.
Now, don't you think, from the defense attorney's point of view, that was a really smart maneuver to have a district attorney come in and testify to someone's character?
Mitchell Hoffman is a very smart attorney.
Yes, he is.
And
Yeah, he
you and
is.
just so, I was not aware that you were actually subpoenaed.
Yes.
So you had no choice but to go down there then.
I had absolutely no choice. Well, I did have a choice. I can appear down there, or I can violate the law.
Right. Exactly. I can
That's
choose
not
to.
really a
I can-
choice, yeah.
I can choose to buy my coffee at the convenience store, steal it. Right. I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I choose the first, of course. Okay. Next question then. And I'm trying to be nice.
That's okay.
Yeah,
You can be mean.
no, those are called those jobs, not mine. I've been told I'm too nice on these interviews anyway.
But they're out there waiting.
Yeah. I have a concern personally as a citizen regarding your, and I don't know what the terminology you put, I'm just going to put it on the table, is your Pay for Community Service Act. Okay.
Okay.
I understand the theory possibly behind it, but the way I hear from all the talk, never had a chance to talk to you directly, is basically there's no parameters per se on who qualifies, what the dollar amounts may be, what charities are involved, et cetera, et cetera. I also know the grand jury did an overview of this program, provided you some recommendations, and it's my understanding that those recommendations have not been implemented at this point in time. So I guess my questions are there set standards and procedures for this program? Is there a procedure on what funds go to what charities? And have you implemented the grand jury recommendations?
Okay. Let me first start by explaining the program, so we give the audience a little knowledge of what it's about. Quite often, and probably the majority of the time, when a sentence is handed down, there's a component of community service. And so you're saying it's like you're sentenced to so much time in jail, so much fines, and you have to do so many hours of community service. Now, when those community service hours are given to a defendant who lives outside of Lake County or even out of the state of California, he can do the work in another county or other state. It doesn't do us any good in Lake County. And in fact, we even have to monitor their service, so it takes us time and resources, which we have very limited amount of. So I allow them to convert that community service into a charitable contribution to a charity which my office, and mainly myself, will designate who the charity is. The amounts depends upon the crime, depends upon the financial status of the person or the defendant. Normally we use a rate of $10 an hour, which is what the courts use in determining in converting like work service or fines to work service. Now the grand jury has come back and says basically it's a really good program. Most everybody I talk to loves the program, but there are some glitches. What the grand jury has recommended, among other things, some things I did implement, but the one thing I did not implement is they wanted a committee to decide who gets the money and how much. And I'm not going to do that. It's a program through the DA's office. So far, anybody that has asked for funds have received them, except for the recent ones that have come in, because we don't have the funds right now. We have to wait for a certain case to come through. So when the case comes through and we make the deal, then I'll look and see who's asked for funds or where it will go.
But it's your discretion as to where they go.
It's totally my discretion. I will normally talk to the deputy DA who actually handles the case, anybody else within the DA's office, and they ask for it, and more than likely they'll get it.
Is it open basically to any offender based on, or is there anybody that you wouldn't allow to participate in this program?
Probably so. I haven't been really faced with that decision yet. Because if you get to very serious crimes like the homicides, the robberies, the rapes, all this stuff, there is no community service portion of it. It's just jail time and fines.
So have you used this program for anyone locally then?
Yes, we have.
Okay. You just said, though, that this is for out-of-state people, not necessarily local.
It was set up for out-of-state, but I have made exceptions to it. See, the law allows me to participate in any program that will be benefit for the administration of justice.
Does that have to be blessed by the judge when you override the community service?
No, it doesn't.
Really?
No, because the deal is made prior to the person entering the plea. So, the waiver of community service for money is negotiated in the plea agreement prior to the judge approving it. I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
The negotiation of dollars for community service is negotiated during the plea agreement, and then the judge approves it after the fact.
Yeah, we advise the courts of this. They don't. The court doesn't like to weigh in on this program, so they don't really want a part of it. Because it's not specifically set forth in the statutes, but they've approved all the plea agreements that we have used this program for.
Okay. I understand the point of possibly doing this without a state people. That actually makes sense. But local people, I don't understand, because part of the community service is to give back to the community for their actions and to learn from their mistakes and to contribute back. And by just, for those who can financially afford it, here's some money. This almost like a bribe to a certain extent. I know it's not, but you know what I mean.
It's a pay to play.
Right.
Basically.
And for those who can afford it, cool, I don't have to worry about community service. Here's some money, have a nice day. And it defeats the whole purpose of community service.
And I've had a lot of people who've done community service that have said, if I hadn't done that, I would not have appreciated what I did and how it affected other people if I hadn't gone out there into my community and given part of that. So I think it's a valuable part of a sentence when you have community service.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, and I do agree with that concept too. But I also look at the other side, which my opponents and critics don't want to look at the other side. I have raised roughly $120,000 in the last 3 years to local charities and nonprofits. From that, I've given to schools, I've given to women's shelters, all kinds of different things. Probably the thing I like the best, I give a lot of money to food banks. And I have put roughly, and it's very roughly, 25,000 meals in front of hungry families. So
That's pretty good, but
you weigh that compared to
do you have any
somebody.
statistics on your recidivism rate? I don't know if I said that right.
That's a hard word.
The rate of return of these people that are making these payoffs.
There's no statistics on it. I don't
Is anybody
recall.
tracking that, or just to see?
No, we don't spend the time and resources tracking that. I cannot remember off the top of my head seeing anybody return or known of anybody returning who's been part of this program.
Okay.
I'm not saying there hasn't been. I just never seen it.
Gotcha. Okay, we need to take some calls.
Well, we got calls?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Hello, you're on the air.
Hello, Terry?
Yes.
Yes, I have two quick calls. The first one should only require maybe a yes or no answer. I asked Don Anderson the other night at the debate about the 4 people that were arrested in Middletown and about when he actually saw the report. I think he misunderstood the difference between when he actually sought to charge or when he released them. So I just have a direct question. The night that you released the 4 suspects from jail, was it Bo Scheffler's mother that called you and alerted, and that's what caused you to make the release that night rather than waiting for the paperwork from law enforcement?
No, I did not even know Bo Shefford's mom prior to that. And I say that with a little caveat. I did not know her, but she tells me about 2 years prior to that, she had a one single appointment with me about an issue that she had. I didn't remember it. I believe her I did, because I think she said I didn't charge her, but my fees were too high, so we didn't hook up as attorney-client relationship. I did not
You've had no personal relationship with her prior to that?
No, and she had just started to work at a local restaurant, which I go to quite a bit, and the owner of that restaurant, it was just TJ's, introduced me to her, and that was about a week later, and we were talking about it. But
regarding that incident, do you not see something wrong with, I know it was just 3 grams that this kid had, but do you not see something wrong with the fact that he was selling to high school kids, and that should have probably been put under some kind of scrutiny to investigate and try and see if this was an ongoing problem in the high school?
yeah, if he was, and that's a big if. But you got to remember, I don't know if you've looked into the facts of this case, but when the sheriff got a hold of the witness, the victim, the 16-year-old, he told him one person actually did the sales. Halfway through the case, he changed his mind and says, no, it wasn't him, it was someone else. He lied to the sheriff. But that's a big red flag to me when you, in the middle of investigation, you say, well, I lied, it wasn't him, it was somebody else. And then even the facts of the case was very questionable. 4 people in a car conspiring to sell or give a kid 3 joints of marijuana. First of all, that's just not logical and not even reasonable. I mean, I don't
know. When I was 16, I had a lot of people give me joints when I was in high school that were older, that came around the high school and stuff like that. I mean, I don't think that's unusual.
And that one individual, yes. But if you were standing doing nothing more but standing with three of your friends, or that other person was standing with three of their friends when they gave you a joint, should those three friends go to jail also?
Possibly not. That I may agree with you on that, but the simple fact that a high school kid was given weed, I think, is something that should have been scrutinized a lot more than it had been. I don't know.
Scrutinized, but
Personally, because I would appreciate it if somebody would have jumped on me when I was 16 and said, "Hey, you shouldn't be smoking that shit." Oh, excuse my language.
But
You just said that.
I did.
But Terry, you got to remember also, I have the constitutional obligation to let someone go if we cannot make a case for them.
Yeah.
And there were so many constitutional violations done that day.
And it didn't matter that the boy was a minor or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
Minors have the same rights as adults as far as the Constitution goes.
Right, but that kid that got mixed up with that deal and was being sold that product, he had some rights too. I mean, the people he's a kid. And I think anybody that's doing things with children, there needs to be some kind of ramifications there. I don't know. But again, it's your call.
But going back to the Navarro case, I cannot violate the law.
Right.
And if I was to keep these 4 kids in jail when I know we cannot make a case, and I even question whether or not this happened, I got to let them go, or I'm violating the law, I'm violating my ethics, and
Right.
it won't happen.
Okay, Kathy, another question?
Yes, my second question is, the other night at the debate, the Justin Lazard case came back up again, and you said he was only charged with indecent exposure. But in truth, and when he was arrested in 2006, he was charged with annoying and molesting a child under 18, and also engaging a lewd act in public and the indecent exposure. So he was charged at that time with 3 crimes. It had gone through between Lakeport Police Department and the DA's office. They evaluated the evidence, the police report. They charged him. He's in the court process. He flees. When he's arrested in New York, and New York calls and says, "We have him. What do you want to do with him?" The case is evaluated again because Lake County is going to go through the expense of paying for his transport back to Lake County. So it's been evaluated twice. He's still charged with 3 serious misdemeanors. So didn't you really misspeak when you say it was just indecent exposure? And really, did you have a need to go back and reevaluate this case again? Would you have done that if it hadn't been for Paul Swanson?
Okay, first of all, you're kind of mistaken. I think it was only...
On what part?
Well, let me finish.
I'll let him talk.
It was. I'm saying 2 crimes. Original charge came out. And that's my recollection of it. The annoying children. First of all, you have to have a victim that's going to testify. And long before I got there, the father of that victim said, "My daughter is not going to testify in this case under no circumstances." We did not have a victim to make that case, so we were not going to proceed with that case. Again, that was before my time at the office. When I got there and took the case, the only viable charge was the indecent exposure, and that which we were looking at. And in evaluating the case and in talking with my deputy DA who was handling the case, we were going to have some extreme difficulties proving the indecent exposure. Because, let me tell you, that there's 2 elements.
I know, we don't have to do that because I'm clear on the sexual gratification.
Yeah,
but I'm right now looking at the news release from 2010. I also have the paper that has him wanted, and he is charged with 3 crimes.
Yeah.
He was charged in 2006 with 3. He still was charged 3 crimes when he was arrested in New York. And so it was three crimes, not 2. And I have met the mother of one of the victims who was 4 at the time. The parents were there. They certainly could have testified as to what they saw, what their children saw. It still was a lewd act in the presence of a minor child.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but my opinion is if a man is holding his private parts out in front of a child, whether it's hard or not, it's still a sex crime. I'm sorry.
Well,
and that may be another fine legal point, but in my opinion, that's lewd and lascivious acts in front of a child.
The legal points is part of my job. That's what I have to do, what we have to prove. I don't want to take a case to trial if we're not going to win it. And like I was trying to say a minute ago, there are 2 parts to indecent exposure. One, the exposure, which is no question he was exposing himself. The other part, he has to have the intent to sexually gratify himself or the person who he's exposing himself to. And that is the part which we were going to have extreme difficulty proving. Just very briefly, like you said, he had his penis out. It was flaccid. He was staring off into the space, even when he was surrounded by 3 huge police officers. That he continued to hold it and stare off into the space. When they took him to the ground, they tased him. Okay, when they put him back in the patrol car, his comments were, "Please tase me again. I want to get the demons out."
Was there a psych evaluation done on him?
Yes, in New York by his psychologists, who both were going to come out and testify that he did not have the mental state. At the time when I got in office, we had no evaluation or expert to come in and testify. So at trial, the jury's going to hear about these 2 psychologists coming out and saying this was a total mental breakdown, it's uncharacteristic of him, that's not like him, and he had no intent to sexually gratify. What his intent is to get arrested or get hurt by the police. That's what he wanted.
But that wasn't the first time he'd done that. He had an incident in Monterey as well, and then there was something else that happened in New York. So this guy seems like he has a habit of doing this.
No,
at this point.
there was one in Monterey several months ago, a very, very similar situation than what we had in Lake County. And in that case, they gave him some community service and it was nothing more.
But it seems like he has a serial problem here that needs to be addressed one way or the other.
Yeah, and we did. The deal I made gave us more control over him and made it mandatory that he receive psychological counseling. Instead of a 1-year probation, which the original deal was 4 prior to my time, I made it be 3 years. And so he had a 3-year probation, and during that probation, it was required that he attend counseling. I believe it was monthly, or maybe more, I can't recall. But every quarter, his psychologist has to report to me and send me a report about his update.
Has he fulfilled his obligations?
He has. Every quarter, the psychologist wrote me, told me what was going on. And I think it was, February, March, sometime maybe April. He was off probation because he completed it, and there were no other acts which would have violated the probation.
Okay, Kathy, we got to move on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hello, you're on the air.
Hi, is that me?
Yeah, it is you.
Well, thank you very much. Hey, this is Bruce, Lake County Government Watch.
Hi.
Hey, Bruce.
Hello, everybody. Why don't we continue the theme of people in high places? Donnie, a couple of questions for you. When you first took office, we had an incident with Art Groth. I think you recall that incident in regards to a DUI.
Yes?
Okay, in that incident, as you know, Donnie, Art got some very special treatment from the CHP.
That's not correct, Bruce.
That is correct, Donnie.
That, Bruce, that is not correct.
Donnie, let
Calm
me
down.
Calm down. Hang on.
Down.
Hey, wait a minute. Now, Donnie, once I pose the
Brucey?
question, you can respond, okay? Once I pose the question, you can respond.
Is this your show or is this Terry's show? I
This is
forget.
Terry's, and I think Terry would agree.
Well, let Terry
Well,
make
we
the
would
rules
like
then.
him to get the question out.
Okay,
That
let's
would
go
be the
for it
first
then.
step. Go ahead, Bruce.
Thank you, Terry. Donnie, as you know, we had a situation with Art where we had a DUI, cite and release through CHP. As you know, he was picked up by Mr. Hinchcliffe in the late evening. And as you know, he didn't end up down at the sheriff's station that night. And as you know, we never saw any photo posted up on the arrest record. I think that's correct so far. And as you know, Donnie, he ran into either a guardrail or a fence. Description of particulars isn't really that important. The first question to you is, why did you not charge him with a 2001C/2002?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Why did you not charge him with vehicle code 2001C or 2012?
Well, Brucey, to remember one thing, we did not charge it. Because he was an employee of the district attorney's office, the matter went to the attorney general's office.
Don,
We have.
you didn't- you
Hey,
didn't-
I thought I was
Okay,
allowed.
Bruce,
Hey, Bruce, if you want to
hold the line. Let him answer.
Don, do you know what a 2001 is?
Yeah, I know what 2001 is. It's hit and run with injuries, which
No,
is not
it's
the
not.
case. 2002 is without injuries. But
No,
Bruce,
it's not,
Brucey,
Don.
hey,
All right,
Brucey,
we're not
wait a
going to
minute.
argue the fine points, Bruce. Let him respond, please.
Property damage, Donnie, just to try
That's
to
all
do
right.
the job
Let him
for you.
respond, please, Bruce, or I'm going to have to cancel the
Go
call.
ahead, Don.
Okay, go by the same rules as you want, Bruce. Okay.
Go ahead, Don.
Okay. We did not do the charging. The attorney general does the charging. We stay out of it totally because he's an employee. You would have to call the Attorney General's office to lodge your complaint with them. We have nothing to do with it.
Okay, thanks. Now, you can make recommendations for what is right and what
No,
is
I
correct
can't.
to do.
I
You
cannot
can,
make
Don.
recommendations. No, Brucey,
can.
I cannot make
Yeah, you can.
recommendations.
Donnie, we know that you can.
Okay.
No, you cannot.
We
You're
have
lying
to
about
stop
that.
arguing, gentlemen.
Moving on
That
to the
doesn't
next-
do us any good, so,
I've got another quick question.
yes.
So, how do we justify the cite and release? Can we expect, Don, that anyone drunk as Gross was, hitting property damage, leaving that scene of the crime, then finally being found, Donnie? It's a very simple question. Can all of the citizens expect to have someone they know called so that we can get a cite and release for the CHP and not be photographed, not be taken down to jail? Is that what we all can expect that will happen for us?
Well, Bruce, you got to realize we had nothing to do with the decision that was made whether he gets booked, not into Lake County Jail because he's a deputy DA, whether he's taken to another county for housing or not.
By Hinchcliffe, Donnie.
Hey, are you going to play by your rules or are we going to play
Okay.
by Terry's rules?
I think we have to move on. And
Okay, let me make one last statement.
Okay.
He was picked up by Hinchcliffe, Donnie. We know that, and you're dancing like Fred Astaire. But let's leave that one alone for right now. Last but not least, and this is more to Terry as a general statement and to Peter, the issue that we have in our county, Donnie's deeply embedded in it, Rob Brown, all of the old boys, is that because of the nepotism, because of the collusion, because of the family connections, the one thing, and the reason our county is rated last in the state, is that the citizens and the cream of the citizens, the sharp citizens, the intelligent citizens, never get to rise to the top. They never get to be voted in because there's too much collusion, too much nepotism. Rob Brown, a perfect example.
All right,
These type of things have got to stop for our county to be able to expand and grow. And until people like Donnie and Rob and Farrington, all the long-termers get out of the system, we will continue to suffer as a county.
Okay, Bruce.
That's my final statement.
Thank you so much. We got to move on.
Okay, my only suggestion, maybe Bruce should try to run for office sometime.
That would be a good thing, yeah.
He
Hello,
likes
you're
to
on
talk.
the air.
Good.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is to Mr. Anderson. You've been on several shows, KPSC, Ron Green, Herb Gura, and with the debates with Andre Ross. I have a paper here I pulled up on the State of California State Bar. Your bar number is 141947. It says here we weren't eligible to practice law through 9/1 through 9/8 of 2010. Also, administrative inactive /NCLE and noncompliance, not eligible to practice law. So my question is to you. You went those 8 days, did not have your bar, but had your deputies convict cases. What's going to happen to those cases within that timeline when you were in charge of that department, did not have your bar license? You continue to change your stories whenever you go on the radio. I think it's a travesty. You need to step down. And as far as your I like to call it your student body, your high school crew, every time they're at a debate, they're in the front row, heckling and jeckling, and this department is embarrassment to Lake County, and you need to step down.
Okay, thank you, caller.
And let me just add my one comment there, and we've participated in a lot of the debates and forums, personally or in filming, and I have to agree with her that. I'm not saying you're personally responsible for this, but I have seen many people from your office laughing, heckling.
A lot of inappropriate behavior.
Well said. And do you condone that?
No, I haven't seen that. I've seen some of my people.
We've got
there.
it on tape.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know some of my people have been there, but just like Kathy and other people who are staunch Rivero supporters have also been on the front line. So I can't.
Well, it's
can't
not
say-
just the debates. They also go on Facebook. They attack people there all the time, is particularly Ed Borg. He's one of the number one offenders of this type of activity. He's attacked us. He's attacked other people and made comments, that are what I would consider inappropriate for a professional to do. And that just seems like your department is kind of out of control that way.
I don't agree with you.
Okay.
I've read a lot of what Ed Borg has put on and other officers, and I don't know if attack is the right word. A lot of it is clarify, but I'm not going to censor anybody that works for my office.
Okay.
If they do it in a professional manner, which I think they have not used profanity, they have not gone and divulged any private information, anything confidential, I won't censor anybody.
Okay.
So that's
So
just
we need to
my
take another
philosophy.
call?
I'd like to ask one question before
Okay,
we take a call.
quickly.
And let's not get onto a specific subject here. And I asked Sheriff Rivero this, so I'm going to ask you the same question.
Sure.
In the last 4 years, or 3.5, what decision have you made, or what action you've taken that you possibly may have some regrets, or after the fact thought I could have done something or made the decision in a better way? Give me one instance of that. That's exactly what the sheriff did.
Oh, you mean what the sheriff did?
No, what
No,
you
no,
did
no.
personally.
What I
I mean,
did.
Any
I make
regrets you
bad
have?
decisions every day of my life.
Yeah.
Oh, which it has happened. Trying to think of the worst decision I made. Well, one of the decisions, just very recent, I agreed to reduce somebody's community service hours and give them you might say, a pass so they can participate in a recent debate. And I somewhat regret, not so much to attend the debate, but I also said that I would allow him, subject to the court's approval, to take his last 2 weeks, I think, of community service and revert it to, I'm not the community service, 2 weeks of home monitoring converted to community service. Now I kind of regret making that agreement, but I gave my word for it, so I'm going to uphold it. It's not a big earth-shattering issue.
Yeah.
I
mean, they didn't go out and make another crime or anything, right?
No, there's been a lot of
probably
decisions
a
I
minor
regret, and I wish I would not have made it, but I did, and
Okay.
everybody makes some mistakes.
Absolutely. That's why we asked that question, because it's obvious everyone would have an issue, to deal with. Hello, you're on the air.
Well, I just want to say that this sounds to me like a frontal attack on elected official rather than carrying on a discussion.
Yeah, some of the
And
callers have been out of control.
Well, yeah, but you have to, your responsibility to mediate this discussion. And we would like to know specifics about Mr. Anderson's performance. We don't get to that because we are always. This is the third show, I believe, where I hear the same cases mentioned, and that's always based on the sexual phobia so many people carry on. I mean, you might just vote in or decide that you're going to put bans on dogs if some kind of nut is dropping his pants. I think it should be given
Milos.
appropriate importance.
Can we, do you have a question for Mr. Anderson?
Mm-hmm.
You do? Okay, can you ask your question then?
Well, I would like to know if you feel that you are being attacked rather than, discussing your performance over the years.
Well, that's part of the job.
Thank you.
To be criticized by the public, by other government officials. That's all part of it. You have to have a lot of thick skin to be in a position like
Yeah,
this.
that's true.
And as for today, yes, I'm being attacked by some of the callers. I think Terry and Peter are just right on, though.
Thank you.
They can ask hard questions. I'll just tell it the way it is.
Exactly. That's all we want to hear is what you want to tell us about yourself, and that's why you're here.
Yeah, and I have to kind of make a statement. It was Bruce, maybe I got a little out of line with Bruce too, but when he goes on the blogs and he attacks my wife, he attacks my kids, I mean, he has attacked me, I don't care.
I get attacked all the time. What else is new? That's what the blog is about, I guess, attacking anonymously.
But when he goes on and makes lies about my wife and my
he's
children.
done that to us too.
Yeah.
I mean, not him, but whoever's posting there. That's the problem with that blog, because it's anonymous and there's no accountability.
Yeah,
and people can say whatever they want.
I just wish Bruce would have the manhood and the guts to come up to me into my face and tell me these things.
Okay.
But
there's
won't.
a challenge for him.
Okay, anytime.
Let me make a comment then.
Sure.
And this is something I've talked to the supervisors, all the elected officials I've had the privilege of actually talking one-on-one with, is I think there's a horrible, horrible communication problem in this county between elected officials and government and the citizens. If you're reelected, what can you do or what will you do to help improve the communications between your office and the citizens in regard to your decision process, the things you've done to prosecute people, or just policies and procedures in general?
Well, I try to do everything I can at this point, but you have to realize a lot of the DA's office's work is confidential, and it has to be for various reasons. Usually, we lose the confidentiality after the case is over with, but by then it's old news and people don't really care that much.
Well, I think that's opposite. I think people do care, and I think people want to understand the high-profile cases. And I've not seen a news release from your office in God knows how long.
We had one about 3 weeks ago, I think, was the last one that determination on a case.
Yeah, when I do news releases, I release them to all the news
You just don't
here.
do a lot of them on a regular basis.
We don't, just the high-profile cases.
Right.
Now, my deputy DAs sometimes will make news releases, either orally or in writing. When I do the news releases, they're quite often about homicide cases, whether to charge, not to charge, or whether the officer involved critical incidents protocols.
Exactly.
Which one will be coming out?
It would be nice to have much more communication, though. We'd like to know about the smaller cases and determinations, and maybe there's a place on your website where you could put successes and, what cases got won and that kind of thing, where people could actually be able to, without having to search through the court records, get an idea on important cases and what their status is or something.
Yeah, and actually, I'm open to that. That is an idea which has been talked about. Unfortunately, I have to find the right person to head that up.
Yeah.
And right now we are so buried. We're very behind on charging. Trials backed up.
Sure.
And we're losing.
Well, we got another couple of calls, so we're going to keep moving here. Hello, you're on the air. Hello, you're on the air? Okay.
No, they're not.
Well, they must have given up. Went for coffee. Hello, you're on the air. Hello, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, I have a question for Mr. Anderson. At the DA's debate at the Board of Supervisors chambers, when you were confronted about the issue with your continuing education and the inability to practice law, you sat there and told us, and I was there, that you didn't have any court appearances, and thank goodness you didn't have any court appearances, because you would have had to have gotten somebody to cover for you. And then it comes out later that you did have court appearances. And at the later debate, you addressed that saying that you didn't know. I would like to know why the inconsistencies in your statements there, and why you would boldface fabricate that you didn't have any court appearances because you would have to get someone to do them for you, when that absolutely wasn't true.
Okay, you need to go back and review that tape again. Or if you want to get the tape, you can get it from, I believe, here or Lake County News. That's online. Because that's not what I said. The facts of it is I was negligent in getting my my continuing education certificate into the bar. They put me on inactive status effective September 1st, but they didn't give you immediate notification of it. Then I had court appearances on September 1st, 3rd, and 7th. On the late afternoon of the 7th, I contacted the State Bar by phone to make sure they received the documents that I had sent them. And on the 7th, they told me that they had, but I'm still deficient on a couple of units. They didn't tell me at that time I was inactive, though. So
I understand what you're saying there.
Yeah.
My issue is that at that debate, you told us that thank goodness you didn't have any court appearances because you would have had to have gotten someone to cover for you. Something to that effect.
yes, that's true. On September, that would be on September 9th when I was officially notified by phone that I was inactive, and I did not have any court appearances. If I had on that date, then I would have had to have somebody cover for me. That's what I said on the Board of Supervisors debate, and I really suggest you go online to clarify that in your mind. Go to, I believe it's Lake County News. I think they have it online.
Actually, they took it off.
They did?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Go ahead, I have a CD of it.
Oh, good.
Okay, then go
Okay,
back and
caller, we
review
have
it,
to
and
move.
you'll see that's exactly what I said.
Thank you. Hello, you're on the air.
Good morning. Quick comment and then a quick question. Well, and I don't think the answer will be very quick. If the two of you should get in, you and Frank, again, I sure hope we don't have 4 more years of revisiting this RIMS. And also the Brady Law. I'm not sure if I got that one right, but what is your justification? Because you've stated that once an officer has been convicted literally of lying in court, then it should stay. Then what was your justification for taking the other 6 officers, if in fact you did, off the Brady Law?
Thank you.
Okay. First, the RIMS issue, and I agree. I hope if Sheriff Rivera gets reelected, it's not like it's been for the other 3 years.
Well,
And
didn't
this-
the BOS ask you to cooperate with him on this investigation into RIMS, and what has been the status of that since then?
Last I heard of the status, the Attorney General will not get involved in it. That's the last I've heard. On the RIMS, Sheriff Rivera cut us off of RIMS because, in essence, I believe he was angry at me because I would not allow him to send over the reports, which normally in the form of paper, over electronically through RIMS. And he dictated and demanded that it be done, and it's done in 2 weeks. And I said, well, stop. We're going to not do this willy-nilly. Let's get a little process going. We can do both for a while till see if it works. And then there was a meeting on that day, which I had to cancel, had an emergency come up, and he cut us off of RIMS that afternoon. We've been cut off ever since. That's fine.
Well, from my understanding, there's levels of access that the sheriff could set. Now, what the California Judicial Investigation into that stated was that certain investigators from your office were also working as dispatchers, and as a dispatcher they had a higher level of access than they would have as investigators for the DA's office. So they were accessing information. They said over 3,000 accesses on information, which I know you've said that most of it was changing addresses and things like that, but there have been documented instances when people were using RIMS for personal use through those accesses. And I think that this audit is really important, and I really would like to see there be some kind of follow-up, and unfortunately we're running out of time.
Well, let's just make a comment that we've been told that there is a ongoing investigation.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
But I want to be clear too. Our investigators were not. We were making like changes as far as the addresses and phone numbers, stuff like that. That was the majority of them. But we were also reading the reports that there's dual investigations going on, so we can read what the sheriff's office is doing. They can read what we're doing.
Right. But as dispatchers, did they really have that right? I know it was like a common method of operation throughout the whole departments, and both departments cooperated with each other on information sharing. But there were obvious abuses, and Mooreshed was one of them, and there was also, other things that happened in Lakeport that could be documented. And so, and even with what's his name from the sailboat accident, he also illegally accessed. So Purdock. So we have to look at these things and say, well, there's smoke, there must be some fire. I think the sheriff was justified in that.
Okay. What you just said, you said Purdock, Mooreshed. You could also have said Navarro. Because
yes,
there were
and
allegations
I know.
of
I'm
that.
going off the top of my head, so yeah.
All those were sheriff's employees.
Right.
There was never any case even alleged that anybody from the DA's office abused the system.
Not that we're aware of, because no audit's been
because
done.
it never happened.
Yeah. But
Because
until
our
there's an
employees
audit, I don't
that.
think the people are going to feel comfortable until we really see, for a matter of fact, by some kind of agency to come back and say everything's cool.
Well, I would think, maybe I'm wrong, I would think if there was ever such a case where any employee of the DA's office abused that system, Sheriff Rivero would have that on the front page of the newspaper the
You
very
would think
next
so,
day.
yeah.
So, and I imagine he has looked at well over those 3,000 cases and has not found one time any DA's office employee abused the system.
Okay, and that's fair enough. Until there's an audit, that's all we can say, so I appreciate that. Okay, Pete.
The second part of that, if you want about the Brady, do you want me to address
and we
that?
really don't have the time. We got 20 seconds, basically, till we
Okay.
go off the air. So unfortunately, that is an issue that we did want to discuss as well, and we're out of time. So
sorry.
we'll have to save that for another time.
Anytime you want.
Okay, good. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. This is Lake County Magazine. You're with Terry and Pete. We'll be back next week, and our guest next week will be, quickly, let's jump on that real fast, so we can let people know who's going to be here next week. It will be Mark Courier and Bill Dodd. Okay, thank you so much, folks. We really appreciate phone calls. Those of you who haven't got through, we'll see if Mr. Anderson can possibly get on you privately and you can ask your questions. Thanks for listening. This is KPFZ 88.1 FM in Lake County and all around the lake. We'll see you next week.
As our guest, Tom Ball and Kenny Sutton. Echo Creek is back in business again. They have a new record on None Such Records. It's called Dotted Line. They are Chris Steele, Sean, and Sarah Watkins, and we'll listen to Destination.
You don't owe me one more minute of your wasted time.